I picked these people because all of them are the best on earth. But I also wanted to see, well, they're all very different. In the book, for example, you'll see somebody like let's say Jack Bogle, who built Vanguard and believes in investing and holding that money and indexing. He's probably invests directly about as opposite as anybody as Carl Icahn, who goes into the market and basically disrupts the system and says, you guys who are running the company are not maximizing profits, and I'm going to take over the company unless you make some changes. And I'm grossly generalizing what he does. It's much more deep than that, but that's a good metaphor for it. And so they're very different. I mean, Carl is pretty intense. Jack's pretty intense too, but about different issues. I actually had the privilege, by the way, of introducing the two of them. That's how far I came on this journey of 4 years. They both known about each other for decades and both fans of each other, but I got to introduce them. But the reason I bring it up is you might say, well, they have totally different approaches. What do I do? Or you might see Kyle Bass has a completely different form of investing, let's say, than another person. Or maybe, again, looking at somebody like Sir John Templeton and seeing his ideas, you invest when there's blood in the streets, when everybody's freaking out, when they know the world's over, because people give up their investments for pennies on the dollar, and then things always come back and you make a lot of money. So there's lots of different approaches here. And so I picked a dozen in that section of the very best of the best, and I decided to share them all. But I want you to know that they do have some things in common. What they all have in common universally, not only the people on the video, but virtually everybody that I interviewed, they all are completely obsessed with not losing. Not losing to them is as important as winning. They say, well, what do you mean? Not losing money. Do you remember Warren Buffett's favorite quote when he says, here's the key to investing, it's only 2 rules. Rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, see rule number 1, right? And that came from actually his teacher. He's been sharing that his whole life because it's the focus. Guys like Paul Tudor Jones, to make money 28 years in a row through stock markets crashes and ups and downs of bonds and changes in the financial system and 9/11 and everything we've gone through, the subprime crisis, to make money 28 straight years, you got to be focused. You better not lose money, because when you lose money, people don't realize what it means. Most people don't realize that if you lost 50% of what you invested, it takes 100% for you to get even. Because when you lose that money, you have less money to invest, and so now it's going to take even more to get even. If you lose 60%, it takes 200% of your money to get even. So it's not a one-to-one ratio that people don't understand, and these great investors know you can't afford to lose money, and so they have all these systems and ways to do it. What else do they have in common? Well, all of them go after what they call asymmetrical risk reward. Now stay with me, it's a big word, asymmetrical. It just means that they want to get a small amount of risk with a lot more possible reward. If I'm going to take risks, they say, I want to take as little risk as possible for as much upside as possible. So when you go through those chapters, you'll see, for example, that Paul Tudor Jones, when I first worked with him, he was having a little bit of a challenging time, and he brought me in to do a turnaround on him. And when I came in, I got a chance to study the films of him from the past. I got a chance to interview Druckenmiller, who was George Soros' right arm. Druckenmiller, Stanley, is a guy that made $1 billion in a day when England was having problems with their currency. And so I got to interview some amazing people. And they all helped me to figure out that when Paul was at his best, when they're at their best, Paul always made an investment where he was risking $1, being certain that what he was going to risk in was going to make him $5, almost a 500% return. Now, all these guys know they're going to be wrong. So Paul's view is, if I risk $1 and I'm certain I'm going to make 5, if I'm wrong, I can risk another $1 and still make 4, another still make 3. Paul could be wrong 4 times out of 5 and still be even and not lose money. If he's right 3 times out of 5, he's going to make 20%. If he's right more than that, he's going to make a fortune. That's how you make money. They make money because the average person does the opposite. The average person risks $1 to make how much? 10 cents, 10%, 20 cents, 20%. Most, it's in the world we're in today, they're looking to make 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cents. How often can you be wrong? Not very often. So you said, Tony, but where do I find investments like that? That's the hard part. But these guys have done it. And I interviewed Kyle Bass. Kyle Bass is the man who took $30 million and turned it into $2 billion in 2 years during the worst economic crisis. How'd he do it? He did it by finding an investment that nobody believed was valuable. And so he only had to risk 6 cents to try to make 100 cents, to make $1, 6 cents to make $1. He could be wrong 15 times and still make money. And he wasn't wrong 15 times, which is why he took 30 billion and made 2 billion. That's the kind of risk reward or asymmetrical risk reward these people do. So I've been looking for those investments through my fiduciary. I've got amazing fiduciary and people of that nature. And when you find these types of investment, it's amazing. Be sure to read the chapter. I'm not going to give it away here, but there's a Kyle Bass explained how he taught his children how to make an investment where they could lose money never. Whatever they invested in would never lose money. It'd always be worth what they put in it, but it would be worth 36% more on the first day they had it, and could be worth 100% more in the near future. So be sure to read that and find out about it. But that's the second thing they have in common. They all believe in take small risks, get huge rewards. Even people in business. You look at somebody like Sir Richard Branson, such a brilliant man. And I've met Richard many times, and brilliant guy, very, very good man. And you look at what he's done in business and you say, well, Richard takes crazy risks. But I was talking to Richard and he was talking about how he looks at a business deal. He always asks the question, what's the downside and how do we protect the downside? And yet you think of risk as you think of Richard as this crazy risk taker. In fact, one of the stories was shared with me was when he was doing Virgin Airlines. That's a big risk, these giant Boeing jets. He actually went to negotiate to get Boeing to give him a guarantee that if the business went under, he could give back the jets without the expense. I mean, that's asymmetrical risk reward, right? That's pretty brilliant. Third, what do they have in common? They all absolutely know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're going to be wrong. They aren't like the talking heads on television who say it's all going to go my way. And so they all have an extraordinary structured commitment of asset protection where they divide up their assets so that when they're wrong, that they still make money. Ray Dalio is probably the most powerful example of that, as he built what he calls his all-weather strategy. And he gave us a strategy not identical, but similar, based on similar principles in the book, which is the all-season strategy, which is designed so that if the stock market goes up or it goes down, you can still make money. If interest rates go up or they go down, you can still make money. And when you go in the book, you can see this. But the secret, same thing is true of David Swenson. David Swenson has an asset allocation, a plan that says, I'm going to be wrong, so I need to have a strategy that when I'm wrong, I'm still okay. I can still make money. What would be a fourth thing they all have in common? They all understand the importance of tax efficiency. David Swenson told me specifically at Yale, he said, Tony, there's only a few things that really move the needle. You've got to diversify your investments so that you're protected and you get the most protection for the downside, you get the most upside possible. He said, you really have to also make sure you have a certain amount of investments leaning towards equities, because equities over time have had a better return than most other investments. But he said the one thing that's a no-brainer is you got to have tax efficiency, because you don't get the dollars you earn, you get the dollars you keep. And as I mentioned to you, there's a chapter in the book on the secrets of the ultra-wealthy and the secrets that you can use today. Ultra-wealthy people know that earning more is not the answer, keeping more is the answer, and that the IRS has sanctioned very specific ways that you can keep more of your money. And if you keep more of that money and invest it properly, you compound it, you're going to get a giant return. And there's ways to do it where the money is deferred, and there's ways to do it where the money is actually tax-free and it's legal. You got to read the chapter on that. But every one of these guys has organized their life to be tax efficient, so they're able to keep more, and that way get to their financial goals so much faster. And then the last one is they're all learning machines. One thing they have in common is none of them will ever settle. They don't say, I got it mastered. They're always studying, they're always learning, they're always growing, they're always trying to figure out a new insight, a new way of strategy to do things better. And if I had to add one more, I may have gone to 7 now, I'd say they're all givers. And when I say givers, I don't mean like positioning givers, like so everybody notices. Every single one of them, one of the reasons they gave me so much time, and many of them didn't just give me 3 hours, they followed up with me. We've spent hours talking since that time and increasing the understanding of how to help you. And they're not making a dime from you, and I'm not making a dime. I gave her all the profits of this book. Why did all these people do this? Because they've done well in their life, and they really believe the secret to living is giving. That they all do it in different ways. Some do it publicly, some do it privately, some do it with education, some do it around healthcare. But they found enormous joy in giving, and it's reminded them that there's more than enough, and it's one of the reasons they're wealthy. So those are the top ones that I could see in common. They don't lose, right? They just are focused. Asymmetrical risk rewards, small risk, big rewards, not big risk, little rewards. Don't want to play that game. Got to make sure that we're protected. We know we're going to be wrong, so we got asset allocation. Got to make sure we're tax efficient. Got to make sure that we're always learning. Got to make sure we're always giving. So take care of yourself, live strong, live with passion, invest well, and get financially free. See you soon.